So Experience Center take things to a next level. End of the day, it's not about the product, it's about the journey of the product. And we wanted to create a state-of-art experience center. How the product can be used, applied or celebrated. So when we talk about experience centers, so the whole word experience center actually shows up how it is defined around experience rather than the product itself. So when in construction industry, like we have done experience centers across different industries, right from kitchen to bath displays to something like what we call like to veneer studios. So each of them has a different story to tell, because end of the day it's not about the product, it's about the journey of the product, it's about the experience of the user, which the person is creating an environment to actually the user to understand the product, experience the product, and then to make a decision if it is a right product for them or not. This kind of approach has been highly successful for people who have implemented it, and we ourselves have seen like where the growth of at least around 200% to 400% across different sectors for the before and after status within a span of less than 1 year. So how do experience centers work? Let us get to started. So experience centers are primarily initially where how the showrooms were made. So earlier when we call it as a showroom, it was more about the product and showing the product. But when we talk about experience center, it is much more than what is just beyond showing a product. Because when somebody sees a product, he doesn't understand how it can be applied, how it is relatable, and how one can actually use that product. But when we actually create a possibility of how the product can be used, applied or celebrated, then it creates a story around it where a person can understand, experience, and then decide what is actually appropriate for it or not. So when we talk about a product where it is a veneer studio, so the store that we were actually doing it for Timber Rhyme was a very narrow store, and we wanted to create a state-of-art experience center for the veneer display. So the bigger challenge was when we do a veneer display, normally veneer stores are done with so many different kind of applications for veneers, and they actually tend to get lost more about they become a display center but rather than being an experience center. It actually celebrates, it creates so much buzz around the product, and the whole store design becomes something which is more an immersive installation. So in this case, the idea was to make a singular structure which was becoming a table, it was becoming a roof element, it was becoming a console, it was being all over the place. So the person who walks into would be pulled into the space by this huge serpentine like experience ribbon which goes around it, and then it has those interactive spaces to sit, understand, to look at the product, look at different parts of it. So the entire energy that is built around the store brings that kind of a very strong connect between the user and the space itself. And like when we were doing a project like something like Alia Kitchen, we were doing an experience center, and it was initially considered as a display center where the client actually asked for around 15 to 20 kitchens to be done in a 4,000 square foot area. But we actually questioned the idea, and we wanted to do less number of kitchens, and each kitchen where the customer can stand with the entire family to experience it. So there was more focus on actually the space for the user rather than just filling up the entire space with the product. So that is a difference, because people don't want like hundreds of options. They want good options curated well, which makes a lot of difference. Today with that store itself, now they have grown to more than 10 to 15 stores, and they have probably increased their business in the last 3-4 years. They have increased like more than 10 times their original business, because the whole idea was not about the product, it was about the user and the experience of the user. So similarly, when we were doing Stylish Bath, the whole idea was how do we show something like a sanitary fitting and celebrate the experience of a user. Because normally the sanitary stores they have a bunch of models of all the kind of WCs the products make. They're line in a row, and they just show the product, which is more of a display center. But to actually make that display center into something which is more experiential, the whole idea of the store was imagined in form of a garden, and the garden as it is laid out into a kind of a setting which is more a laid back setting into the space. So this kind of garden space was actually like a laid back experience, and we could bring in a lot of natural light, we could bring in a lot of plants into the space. What has done, it has shifted a perspective of somebody who walked into a showroom to a place where he feels as if he's at home, and the place as it wherein he feels that he's home and he wants to be in that space. So that kind of comfort was created right from the entrance, and how the flow is being taken, the customer is actually taken into the flow, which is more like a Japanese garden, which actually where you walk around the store, go around places, and then you come back into the space. So each space was actually taking care of how the customer would behave, or how the customer would feel in that particular space. So in the end, the purpose of Experience Center is not just to showcase a product or to display it, but it's rather more than the product. It's about the user and the experience around it. So today, the showrooms have evolved to become experience centers, and tomorrow, like, there would be a time where everything becomes more experiential, more in terms of physically and in terms of digitally. So now it's a high time where we actually could replace the existing showrooms with experience centers, which are more educational, functional, and more purpose driven,